You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about California. So, Lauren?
Yes, Kenzie?
Let's get scary. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I have a funny story. So, you saw it on my Instagram, but I will explain.
Yeah.
So my brother and I decided to go hiking. And he was like, okay, I found this really cool hike. It's 5.4 miles.
That was your first mistake.
2.7 up to the summit, 2.7 down. I said, great, sounds wonderful. We're all prepared. We're ready.
Where'd you go?
It was called Raven Rocks in Bluemont, Virginia.
Yeah.
So we find the parking lot. We get there early. It's like 8:30. We start our hike. We get up to the summit at like 10 a.m. You know, we got up there in like an hour and a half. We're making great time. So there had been this guy who had like been near us as we were going up. And so he doesn't turn back around to go down the mountain. He continues following the white marks, because you follow the white marks. That's how you know which direction to go, because you follow the white marks.
Sure.
So we saw him. I said, oh, do you want to adventure this way? And Jared goes, yes, that would be great. I said, okay, do you think this brings us back to the parking lot? He goes, yes, cool. So we walk in.
I've already counted 5 errors that you have made thus far in this story.
So we walk into the forest a little bit. He's like, wait, let me just look at the all trails to make sure. So we are reading it. It's literally everything up to the summit is exactly what we saw. Like 2.7 on the dot, we're at the summit. We saw this at the, like everything. So he was like, oh, and then you turn back and go to the parking lot. I guess both of us just didn't even realize that part. So we just keep walking. So we're walking, not seeing a soul on this part of the path. Just him and I. That's it. And so we're just like chatting, you know, having a grand old time. Like, oh, that looks so pretty. Oh, look at that rock. Oh, let me take a picture of that. You know, just having a great time.
Sure.
We're at 2.7 miles. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. We would have been back at the car at this point. And he goes, ah. And I was like, oh, this just must be a long path. And I said, I'm so happy we took this. This is so pretty.
Oh my God.
So we're walking, and then another mile, and then another mile. And then another mile. And I was like,
I'm sorry. How many miles did you go before you said, hey, I think we're lost?
I'll tell you in a second. So at one point, he like looks at his phone and it said we're like 9 minutes away from the car because we had the GPS. And so I was like, oh, perfect. 9 minutes away. So I think it was like maybe like a couple minutes back, we had seen something for the Blackburn Trail Center. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I kept saying like, worst case, we just turn around and walk back the way we came because we know the path is that way.
Yeah.
But so we see this trail center. And I said, great, something even closer that we know is here if we need it. So we're walking, 9 minutes passes, a little bit longer passes. And I said, you know what? I'm going to look. So I look at where we are.
You waited that long.
I look at where we are and I go, huh. So I said, Jared, come here. And he walks over. I said, we are 6.5 miles away from the parking lot. And he goes, oh. And that's like if we were to cut straight through the woods. We are 22 minutes from where we parked if we were to drive on a road. And so at this point, we're at like 8.5 miles. So I say, okay, let's go back to this Blackburn Trail Center. So we turn around, we go down, we finally see a human. And I was like, Jared, there's a person. Like we got so excited because for 5 miles, we're not seeing a soul.
I can't believe you walked.
I know. I know. And it was one of those things too, where like, okay, I can gladly say now I have hiked the Appalachian Trail.
Sure.
Thank you. 6 miles of it. But it was like, I can see why it's terrifying because we'd be walking and all of a sudden I'd be like, have you seen white recently? Like the white marks on the trees? And he's like, huh. And then we would stop, we'd look around and we're like, way out there. And so we'd like walk to it and we were fine because each time we thought we were getting closer and closer to the parking lot. No. And then you would see the white and it's like up a huge mountain. And you're like, damn, it was rough. And then there was one point too where like it wasn't creepy, but you know how when you're in the woods or you're outside, you can kind of like tell what time of day it is based on how the sun's like shining.
Sure.
Okay. So, well, like, 5 o'clock-ish time is like when the sun's kind of starting to set. It's like kind of that golden hour time.
In the winter, it is in my eyeballs.
Okay. Well, we're walking and it felt like it was 5 p.m. And I like freaked out for a moment because I was like, we didn't just lose time. And I checked and it was only 1 o'clock. And I was like, thank God. But it was like actually getting kind of terrifying at parts because we hadn't seen anyone. We didn't know where we were. We just kept walking. And so eventually we go to the Blackburn Trail Center. I look for an Uber. There's one like 15 minutes away, but no one's accepting my ride. So we called Dad and we were like, Dad, we got a little lost. Can you come pick us up? So Dad had to drive and pick us up. and drive us back to Jared's car at the trailhead. We're only 20 minutes from our house, so it wasn't very far. But yep. So we had hiked 9 miles for a hike that was supposed to be 5.4. 3 point something of those were on the Appalachian Trail. So yes, I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. Thank you. We kept going between laughing and being like, how in the hell did we get so lost?
Because you trusted your brother with the GPS.
No, we both trusted each other because we both saw those, like, the white marks. And I was like, white, because we've been following the white mark. We followed it 2.7 miles up to the summit. And we both were like, the white mark? Yeah, this has to be a loop around the mountain to get us back to where we need to go. Oh. And at one point, we're like walking and Jared's like, oh, do you hear that? I think those are cars. And I like paused and then I said, Jared, that's the wind. Because you know when the wind comes through the mountains, it like starts to shake some of the trees and then you get the big gust of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I said, Jared, we're not near any cars. And so you saw the picture. You can just see our trail just straight into the woods. Just a forest.
You have known him for how many years now? And you never once thought to yourself, let me check his plan?
I was like, this is sibling bonding.
Sure. But that doesn't mean the sibling's not going to be wrong.
Because he was trying to keep like calm the whole time. And then at one point he just looks at me and goes, Lauren, this is so fucked. I was like, Jared, I know. And that's when we were like, okay, Blackburn Trail Center, let's get out of here. So blessings be to the Blackburn Trail Center. And then we're sitting on a log in the parking lot waiting for Dad to come pick us up. And there's a truck like in front of us because it's the parking lot. And these kids come with their dad. And Dad's like, guys, why don't you come and get on this side? Jared and I,
2 foul creatures.
I know. Jared was like, I mean, I can't even blame him. But then his son, of course, was like, nah, I'm going to stick it out over here, just waiting for the door to open. And I was just thinking,
he probably thought he was so brave.
I know. Like,
there was zero threat.
Like, here we are with our like walking sticks and our backpacks and, you know, yeah.
I can fully believe that you did that, but I also cannot believe that you did that.
And I was so sore. I just got home and I was like, oh.
This is some very, like, puffy mouse behavior.
Oh, my God. So Joe and I, where Puffy Mouse comes from, is Joe and I for New Year's, we went back up to where we got married, which was actually super cute. We went to our venue. They were having, like, a little event. And we stopped at, like, one of our breweries that we like up there before. And one of the drinks I got was Puffy Coat and then, like, Christmas Mouse or something. And so on my flight.
Puffy Mouse.
Yeah, on my flight, it said Puffy Mouse.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I took another picture and added to my Snap or Instagram, and Mackenzie's like, oh, I'm going to call you Puffy Mouse.
She's now, from here on out, Puffy Mouse.
I think it's cute, so I will accept it.
There are worse things.
There are worse things.
Man.
Yep. So, yeah. I got a lot of people messaging me, though, and they're like, well, at least now you have a story. I was like, that is true.
You know, normally I would feel a little bad, but I don't because you made the mistake of trusting the plan. You should always double check it. For someone who has as much anxiety as you do, and this is to as much murder as you do, you didn't confirm any plan?
Girl, trust me. And like, we both looked at each other and I was like, do we want an adventure? And he was like, yeah. And I said, okay, cool. That's the way we're going to go. We were both just ready for a day of adventure because it was so early. It was like 10 a.m. And we were like not ready to go back to the car and be done by like 11.
Yeah. Obviously.
And then we didn't get home until, like, we didn't get back to my parents' house until like 2:30.
You certainly had your adventure.
We did.
Always check the plan.
I'm still proud to say I hiked the Appalachian Trail, so.
Sure, you know, you got to take with the wins where you can get them.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Exactly.
Well, other than that, did you have a good New Year's?
I did.
Wonderful.
I had a great New Year's.
We hope you all had a good New Year's.
Did you have a good New Year's?
I had a great New Year's. I was in a house in comfy clothes.
I was in a barn where I got married.
Yes, that was a barn.
It was, but a cute barn.
It was a cute barn.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good.
Oh, it was so cute. So Joe went up to the guy and was like, hey, like, we got married here a couple years ago. Like, would you be able to, like, play our first dance song?
Aww.
And so he played it. And oh, my God, it was so sweet. And he, like, gave a little shout out. And oh,
that's adorable.
I cried because I'm emotional. But so it was very sweet.
How many tears actually fell out of your eyes?
No, there were, yeah.
Like 1 or 2?
No. I'm emotional when it comes to, like, lovey stuff. That's the only emotion I will show.
You think that you showing emotion is normal people showing emotion and you showing emotion is not.
I showed emotion, okay?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking how many. I'll ask Joe when he gets home how many tears actually came out.
There were, because he was like, "Are you crying?" I said, "Yes, because this is just so sweet."
Oh my God, now this is the 6th time he's seen you.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Making improvements.
This is great.
But that was happy tears.
Good.
Yeah.
That's always for the best.
And then our hotel messed up our reservation.
Oh.
And
is that why you were
so they gave us like this huge suite and they're like, "We're so sorry, like here, take this suite instead." And we're like, "Okay." It's not like a great place.
Even though the bathroom.
Oh my God. Look at this video I took because I was like, we can totally post this. I was terrified that something would pop out. It was breathe.
Wow, that's cool that it has an upstairs, but the bathroom looked like a fucking dorm.
Well, see, there were a lot of like doors, but a lot of the doors, they were locked. And so the upstairs, I guess someone was up there too, but the lock was not on our side.
Yeah.
So the whole night I was terrified that someone was going to come in. And like, I would go to the bathroom and I was like, was that door cracked? Did we have that door cracked? Yeah. Good times. Okay, let's get into California.
Good Lord.
All right. So you'll want to keep an eye out for black bears, mountain lions, bighorn sheep, wild pigs, deer, and elk. And search the skies for a sight of bald eagles, California condors, and California quails, the state bird. Swimming off the coast are green sea turtles, leatherback sea turtles, California sea lions, sea otters, Mackenzie's favorite, it's bolded, and blue whales. When we went to the beach, we saw little sea turtles being hatched.
Yeah.
Oh, so cute. About 6,500 types of plants thrive in California. There's a good chance that piece of fruit you're eating was grown in California. The state is the top U.S. producer of lemons, apricots, avocados, dates, figs, grapes, kiwi, nectarines, peaches, raspberries, strawberries, and many others. Wow. Did not realize.
I know.
And it's not just fruit. California leads the nation in production of almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. It even grows over 90% of the broccoli that's produced in the United States.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask. I couldn't remember which green you do and don't like.
Pretty much all of them except for lettuce and zucchini.
I love zucchini. California's Death Valley is North America's hottest desert with an average daily high in the month of June of 115.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Tank up before you drive there. Gas stations can be 50 miles apart.
Can you imagine?
I covered Death Valley in our,
Yes, you did.
one of our California episodes.
The first one.
Scary place.
Yes, the name is fitting.
Yeah, exactly. The world's biggest tree by volume is General Sherman, a giant sequoia tree in Sequoia National Park. It's 102 feet around. That's bigger than a basketball court and may be as many as 2,700 years old, which is the same age Lauren will be in a couple of months. You're a jerk.
I was like, now that I know she's definitely going to read it, I'm going to have some fun.
I am turning old next month or 2 months.
Oh, man.
that was good.
Thank you.
Land of Giants. California's formidable Pacific Ocean coastline makes a huge splash, and just inland there are groves full of record-setting wonders. Towering higher than 300 feet, some redwood trees stand taller than a 30-floor building. What that means is...
You can put the tree in a 30-floor building.
30-floor building?
Yeah. Actually, you can't because it's taller. Messed that one up. Okay, keep going.
A person standing below often can't see the tops of the world's tallest trees, providing that magical experience of being dwarfed by nature. There are 30 parks in the 132,000-acre Redwood National and State Park system, which also covers grasslands, oak forests, rivers, and 37 miles of protected coastline. Along U.S. Highway 101, about 300 miles north of San Francisco, lies a 32-mile stretch of road called Avenue of the Giants, filled with more than 50,000 acres of redwood trees, some of which have been proud centennials for 2,000 years.
Cray-cray.
That is cray-cray. East of the Redwoods is Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the 48 contiguous states and part of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. The gold rush is one of the largest mass migrations documented in world history. During the California gold rush, the population increased from 14,000 to 200,000.
Yes.
It's really helpful when you add
I copied and pasted. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that there was no comma.
commas in there really help because I looked at the numbers. I was like, am I just supposed to guess?
Okay, go ahead.
There's an interesting story behind the movie industry being based in Hollywood. The movie makers are trying to get away from Thomas Edison, who was based in New Jersey and had patents virtually covering the entire movie-making process. But the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in California was against patent claims, hence the movie makers migrated here.
Yeah, and I looked this up to make sure it wasn't just some random fact on a website, that it was actually legit. And apparently, like, Edison had so many patents, and then, like, there were other inventors who also got patents, and they made this, like, monopoly.
Jeez.
And it was, like, really difficult to, like, get anything done without having to pay. And he was, like, a ruthless businessman.
Edison?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so they all traveled to California. Nobody's out there yet.
Yeah.
And I guess this court was like, I don't give a fuck about patents. And so within, like, I don't know, the first few years, there was, like, all these studios set up, and there's like 15 different studios by, like,
Oh, wow.
1910 or something like that.
So what patents did he have?
He's the one who invented, like, the movie maker.
Right.
Because it was, like, the moving picture and then another moving something. So,
Oh,
like,
wow.
the main thing that you would film a movie with.
Okay, makes sense then.
So Edison invented a fuck ton of shit.
Wow.
So
He's
I don't know
also
why we
good.
only just talk about the light bulb.
Okay, I was just going to say he's also the light bulb, right?
Well, he didn't invent the light bulb. He improved it.
Oh, wow.
Because it was technically already invented, but it wasn't, like, economically sound for the common folk to have it. And he figured out a way to make it last longer and be more affordable by whatever he used on the inside.
Wow.
And then he made all this other cool shit too. And we just only talk about the fucking light bulb.
I feel like the light bulbs are the most important thing.
Yeah, but he also, like, pretty much gave us movies.
That's also important. Okay,
Yeah.
Would you rather only be able to watch movies for the rest of your life or only be able to watch TV shows?
TV shows.
TV shows?
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not a huge movie person.
Oh, see, I love movies.
I do too, but I pretty much watch the same movies that I've already watched.
Yeah.
I am not good about watching new movies unless someone says, hey, we should watch this movie.
That's exactly how I am. That's also how I am with starting a TV show.
Yes.
I want to start.
I won't do it.
I want to start Only Murders in the Building. I really want to start it, but I just have never been able to bring myself to start it.
I started and only watched the first 4 episodes because
I'm like,
couldn't keep going.
what should I watch instead? Oh, The Office.
we could watch it together.
Okay.
And then that way we're both watching because it's both something we want to watch, but we know we won't watch it on our own.
Exactly.
And so we can have our little show.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. If we start it, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
If we start it.
We probably will.
Okay.
So yeah.
California. All right, Mackenzie, what story do you have tonight?
So, while California boasts cool attractions such as Hollywood and Silicon Valley, it harbors a shadowy underbelly. For ages, its laid-back and open-minded vibe has attracted some really strange cults like the Manson family and Heaven's Gate.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, it's produced more serial killers than any other state just behind Texas. Some of California's unsolved mysteries, such as those surrounding the Black Dahlia and the Zodiac Killer, have gained nationwide recognition. However, a multitude of equally strange and chilling mysteries within the state have eluded the attention of the rest of the United States throughout the years.
Oh.
Many mountains worldwide are surrounded by mystery, but Mount Shasta in Northern California is undoubtedly one of the most peculiar ones.
I have heard that name before.
I have not, but there's a lot going on. This mountain continually presents oddities ranging from ancient lost civilizations to UFO sightings, encounters with Bigfoot, strange creatures, and anomalous individuals. Mount Shasta is filled with unusual occurrences, providing a realm of strangeness and wonder that we are about to explore.
Oh.
Mount Shasta, located at the southern end of the Cascade Range in Siskiyou County, California, is a dormant volcano that towers at 14,179 feet, or 4,322 meters. It stands as the second highest peak in the Cascade Range and the fifth highest mountain in California. One of the most prominent features among the Cascade volcanoes, a volcanic range stretching from southwestern British Columbia to northern California, encompasses notable peaks such as Washington's Mount Rainier and Oregon's Mount Hood.
I love Mount Rainier.
What makes Mount Shasta unique is its isolated presence, standing alone without any nearby mountain connections, rising steeply from the ground, resembling an almost pyramid-like shape. So it's just a volcano chilling by itself.
Okay.
There's it's not within the mountain. I mean, it is within the mountain range, but
by itself.
by itself.
Okay.
The mountain's isolation is due to a shift that occurred approximately 700,000 years ago.
Jeez. I can't even imagine that long ago.
Okay, well, this expert, who I guess...
Whose name you forgot?
I mean, I have it's Calvart or whatever. I don't even know if maybe it's Calvert. I don't know. But he's works for the Volcanoes Observatory something or other.
Okay.
So he's an expert in volcano stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
This is what he says. We don't have a really good explanation for why it moved out there. So they know that it did. They know it was the shift, but they have no idea like what would have caused it to do that. This phenomenon manifests in distinctive lenticular.
Nailed it.
Thank you. Lenticular. There we go.
Oh, that sounds way better.
There we go. This phenomenon manifests in distinctive lenticular clouds. Damn, I sound smart. Resembling spaceships. It's truly like they're very circular. I'll try to make sure, I obviously will make sure to include pictures, but if like the sun is going down and shit like that, like these are definitely the kind of formations where you're like, is it?
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
But it definitely looks like a spaceship. No, they're not being dramatic about that.
So maybe they are spaceships and they've just made us think that it's clouds.
Well, apparently they form when a humid air mass collides with the volcano and goes up a bit and cools off.
So they say.
Sure. Yeah. So they say. Apart from these interesting clouds, Mount Shasta has other captivating features, such as its icy summit, releasing fumaroles, which according to Google, it's a noun. And it's an opening in or near a volcano through which hot sulfurous gases emerge.
Wow.
A surface that's constantly changing due to ice, water, wind, and debris. This mystical giant dominates the landscape of Northern California, casting a remarkable and impressive figure over the valleys below. The mountain's impact is so remarkable that it can be seen from up to 140 miles or 230 kilometers away on a clear day.
Wow.
Making it a natural monolith that has captured human admiration and imagination for centuries. Naturalist John Muir, upon first sighting Mount Shasta in 1874, accurately conveyed its grandeur and imitation. Quote, I was 50 miles away, afoot, alone and weary, yet all of my blood turned to wine, and I have not been weary since. I don't know what it means either, but it sounded cool.
That it changed him.
It seemed like it changed him, and he's happy now. That's like the message I got. The volcano last erupted in 1786, but some say it's classified as non-active. Some say it is still classified as active. So, but it's been a few hundred years since it kaboomed.
So hopefully we're good for a few hundred more years.
Hopefully. Well, good thing it's out on the fucking West Coast.
Right. It won't affect us.
Well,
it could.
it could.
Right.
Yeah. Depending on how crazy it is, it might kind of fuck shit up for us a little bit. Unless all the wind happens to go out into the Pacific Ocean and then it just goes the other way.
Which with all the fires in Canada, we know that's not really how that goes.
Nope, they came right here.
Does. Those are done, right?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. Hopefully.
I didn't even know Canada got wildfires.
They typically don't.
So, but like where, like the side that has California and all that, apparently they do.
Yeah.
But not where we were.
Right. That's why it was so like
that
wild.
part was not normal.
No.
So we are going to start by going over some of the legends that are associated with this mountain.
Oh, love it.
Like most natural phenomenon, we're going to begin with the Native American legends because they obviously inhabited the area for 10,000 years.
Way before we did.
Mm-hmm. So they had their own thing. Mm-hmm. But there are many more that have come since then. So the Modoc, the Wintu, the Chumawi, and the Astujwaji tribes,
Nailed it.
Not going to repeat that, were once residents of the region beneath Mount Shasta. Each tribe regarded the majestic mountain as a profoundly sacred space, deeming it too potent for human habitation.
Oh, wow.
They believed it was too powerful for people to live on, and each tribe had their own stories and legends about it. The native Modocs believed that Mount Shasta was the home of the great spirit Skell, who represented the spirit of the above world. According to their beliefs, Skell created the mountain as a celestial stepping stone from heaven, residing at its summit and overseeing the world below.
Kind of like Mount Olympus and the gods, right?
Yes. It also made me think of Moana.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. I love you.
That's what I thought of too. And you were like, it's all by itself. I was like, just like I love for you, he's all by himself.
Skell was said to engage in frequent battles with his adversary, Lalau, the spirit of the below world and darkness, who dwelled on Mount Mazama in Oregon. Legend has it that Skell would hurl intensely hot boulders and fiery lava at Lalau, resulting in the eruption of Mount Mazama.
Oh.
This cataclysmic event formed the volcanic basin of Crater Lake, a place viewed by the tribe as the domain of all evil.
Oh.
In contrast, Mount Shasta was revered as a land of blessings.
Crater Lake has a lot of creepy stuff with it, too.
Well, it was created by an angry mountain god.
Exactly. So, makes sense.
The mountain serves as the inspiration for numerous native tales and legends, many of which were documented by writer Joaquin Miller. In his 1873 work, Life Amongst the Modocs, Unwritten History, Miller chronicled the rich oral traditions of the Modoc people among whom he lived with for a period of time. Legends of the mountain extend beyond Native American lore and come from the locals surrounding the mountain. One enduring and bizarre belief about Mount Shasta involves the existence of an ancient secret city inhabited by the descendants of the Lemurians. According to this legend, the Lemurians were highly advanced people considered the first humans on Earth, originating from a sunken continent named Lemura. Sound familiar? Something that also happened in the Atlantic Ocean? The Lemurians escaped a cataclysmic event that sank their continent from water, like Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
There's one video I watched that was, they said that it was like these two civilizations at first ruled and lived in harmony. And then the people of Atlantis got greedy and wanted to take over the world. And the Lemurians were like, no. And that's how it caused like both places to sink. But I only saw that in one place.
Oh, that sounds like a good one.
But regardless, it's not the original city, but it's where they moved to.
Okay.
So they allegedly established the city of Telos beneath Mount Shasta. Descriptions depict them as tall, graceful beings up to 7 feet in height with fair skin, long hair, and abnormally long necks adorned with collars made with beads, gold, or precious stones. Clad in flowing white robes, or sometimes nude, they are said to have mastered advanced technologies, including atomic energy, magnetism, and electronics, along with levitating airships.
Ooh.
Legend has it that they illuminate their subterranean realm with an artificial miniature sun powered by an unknown energy source. The Lemurians are also said to possess a walnut-sized organ on their foreheads, third eye, baby, granting them psychic powers such as ESP, telekinesis, telepathy, the ability to appear and disappear at will, and influence over others' minds.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So, the origin of the tale can be traced back to a book titled A Dweller on Two Planets, written by Frederick S. Oliver in 1899. In the summer of 1883, teenage Oliver was assisting his family in mining claim boundaries, gold rush stuff. During this task, his hand reportedly began to shake uncontrollably, and he started writing seamlessly on its own.
Oh.
Panicked, Oliver ran home, where his hand continued to write fervently.
You copied and pasted, huh?
Actually, no. Some of this I copied and pasted it into ChatGPT, and I said rewrite it so I'm not plagiarizing, and this is what they came up with. Can read it in my head.
I know. That happens all the time. I have so many words where I'm like, I can read it in my head, and then my mouth just won't do it.
No. So hopefully you knew what I meant, because I'm not doing it again.
I did.
Okay. His mother provided more paper, and after the initial seizure, a text emerged. Over the next 3 years, Oliver's hand sporadically wrote pages, accumulating in a complete book by 1895, detailing the existence of the secret Lemurian city and its history. Claiming to be chosen as the Lemurians' telepathic scribe, Oliver asserted that the entire book was channeled through him via automatic writing.
Yep.
He even claimed astral visits to the city, describing it as deep within the mountain, featuring tunnels with secret doors, elegant architecture, gold-planted apartments, and crystal adornments. This also made me really want to watch The Road to El Dorado.
Freaking love that movie.
We should watch it.
Yes.
According to Oliver, the city was powered by crystal energies, well illuminated and off-limits to outsiders without Lemurians' invitation. The city boasted high technology, including cigar-shaped airships and advanced gadgets, with the book ahead of its time by discussing quantum mechanics, anti-gravity, mass transit, and zero-point energy, and termed dark side energy.
Wow.
Despite Oliver's death at the age of 33 in 1899, his peculiar book was eventually published in 1905 by his mother, Mary Elizabeth Manley Oliver.
So he died when he finished writing the book?
He died a couple years after he finished writing the book.
Oh.
The publication of Oliver's book marked an immediate ascent to occult classic status, openly recognized as a foundational source for numerous New Age belief systems, sects, and cults.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll get into one of them.
Because now that you've said the Lemurians a couple times, I've heard that term before.
So the word lemur, it's like based from that.
Oh, how cute.
Because the guy who came up with the word thinks that there was some sort of landmass between Madagascar and India for that to be the only logical reason for why lemurs are in India.
Okay.
And not just on Madagascar. And it is believed that this place where the Lemurians lived, that was that land.
Oh.
And then it sunk. And so that's why they're the... Yeah.
That's so cool and that's so cute.
Yeah.
I loved that fact.
And then, the ones that were still alive took refuge in the mountain.
That's so cool.
Right? So, many more accounts concerning the purported Lemurian civilization of Mount Shasta would surface over the years, from people who were visiting the mountain to many of the locals who would say that the Lemurians would come into town from time to time and purchase various supplies like salt and sulfur.
Yeah, the basics.
Right. They apparently always paid with gold nuggets that usually exceeded the values of the items. The Lemurian people and their peculiar devices have been consistently observed in the Mount Shasta area with countless sightings and accounts. Frequently seen walking along roads or city streets, they have a tendency to vanish suddenly, possibly due to their psychic abilities and skillful ability to blend into surroundings. Often glimpsed peripherally, efforts to spot them directly are futile. They are known to assist struggling farmers using advanced agricultural techniques that seemingly rejuvenate the soil magically. In one account, a Lemurian woman emerged from the forest, lay in the frigid Panther Springs water for 5 minutes, and silently returned to the wilderness dripping wet. Sightings also include a peculiar boat sailing to the Aleutian Islands, hovering in the air near the shore, and then making its way to Mount Shasta. So the ship would fly.
Yeah.
And yeah. Like,
and yeah.
Like, think like Peter Pan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Another movie we need to watch.
Yeah, right. An old account even mentions a white-robed Lemurian patriarch visiting San Francisco with younger men, purportedly meeting city officials to convey greetings and goodwill during World War I. In 1904, a peculiar account surfaced in the 1934 edition of the Stockton Record involving J.C. Brown, a British prospector with the Lord Cowdray Mining Company.
You can say it any way, and I will think you're right.
Mm-hmm. The Lord Cowdray.
Okay.
The Lord Cowdray Mining Company. Exploring Mount Shasta for gold. While on the mountain, Brown claimed to have discovered a tunnel leading several miles into darkness beneath it, kind of like you saw a path and you went on it. You could have discovered a lost civilization.
Deeper in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I could have.
Too bad you didn't.
I saw a purple tree.
Uh-huh.
It was like, I'll show you.
Okay.
It's not going to look purple in the picture.
Sure.
But see, discovering things by taking chances.
I don't know, purple tree, lost civilization.
There's the purple tree. It's purple.
That's not purple.
Yes, it is. I said it's not going to look purple in the picture.
That's a purple twig.
It's bigger than a
That's
twig.
not a tree. The tunnel allegedly opened into a complex of rooms filled with ornate statues, crystals, shields, gold, and copper plates. Within this labyrinth, there was a mysterious burial chamber featuring at least 27 mummies described as 6'6" to 10 feet tall, some adorned with ornamental robes.
Wow.
Brown declared it a groundbreaking archaeological find, leading to an 80-member expedition organized by John C. Root to further explore the tunnel. Strangely, on June 19, 1934, the day of the planned exploration, J.C. Brown vanished and was never seen again.
See, I was going to ask, where are the pictures?
There is none.
Right.
This story, although remarkable, raises suspicion as the discovery was supposedly made in 1904, but the account only became public in 1934. The mystery of J.C. Brown's underground complex, including its location and its actual existence, remains unsolved despite occasional claims by modern explorers. Lots of people explored this place. His story was just the most interesting.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of others who talk about having seen it or whatever.
Seen the tunnel?
You've been to the Lost City.
Oh.
Yeah. So in 1930, American mining engineer Guy Warren Ballard visited Mount Shasta. While hiking, he claimed to encounter a man who identified himself as Count Saint Germain, an 18th century European courtier and mystic believed by some to be immortal. I kind of want to do something on Saint Germain because he sounds like an interesting legend in history.
Okay.
Because it is said that Saint Germain shows up constantly throughout history during major historical events. He was allegedly at the signing of the Declaration of Independence and even gave a speech.
Did you fact check?
Oh, I know that that's not true.
Oh.
He might have, that's he's like a legend. Like he was a real person.
Okay.
But some people think he's this immortal mystical person that just every historical event he somehow in some way shows up to it.
That reminds me of Mothman, who shows up to catastrophes before they happen.
Yeah. It's like that. So the video I was watching was we're going to do a whole thing on that.
That
And
would be
I was
interesting.
that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So I was going to look into it. but I had to focus.
When we get back to California.
Yeah. Ballard reported multiple meetings with Saint Germain, who asserted himself as an ascended master, spiritually enlightened, immortal, free from cycles of re-embodiment and karma, and possessing vast magical powers.
Yeah, he sounds really cool.
Ballard alleged that Saint Germain guided him to caves and magical places on the mountain to impart enlightenment. Writing extensively under the pen name Godfrey Ray King in books like Unveiled Mysteries and The Magic Presence, Ballard founded the I Am, A-M capitalized, activity with his wife Edna. It was a spiritual movement promoting ascended master teachings. He said that he and his wife were messengers for the ascended masters. They grew the I Am activity movement by giving lectures on Saint Germain's teachings, which eventually grew to over 1 million followers.
Wow.
This movement, described as apolitical, spiritual, and educational, remains active in the area today.
Dang.
AKA, it was cult. So I saw one report.
Well, yeah, it screams cult.
Right. I saw one report that said that, like, he had gotten in trouble because they scammed people out of money. But I only saw that one place and I couldn't find it again. Mm-hmm. And most of the places were just like, yeah, it was this like, but this also wasn't the only spiritual movement. There was a fuck ton.
Oh, yeah.
It was huge.
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either if they scam people out of money. That seemed to be a big thing that cults
And
did.
even today, people go to this place, like the town that's right by it, they say like 25% of their tourism is people who are coming for like spiritualness and healing and all those different types of things.
Yeah.
So it's really big up there. But yeah, this is definitely a cult. But from most of the things, it didn't sound like bad. It was only one that made it sound like kind of sketch.
Yeah.
So who knows? Okay, so those are the legends.
Okay.
So we've covered those. So now we are going to get into some of the experiences that people have had more individually or whatever. So some of them are kind of coming into contact with some spirit thing. Mm-hmm. Others saw something different.
Okay.
But one Reddit user, whose name has been deleted, posted about their experience while going for a hike in Mount Shasta. Because they write really well, and I just decided to go directly with their version of events instead of rewriting it, because it's well written.
Okay.
I went on a little hiking trip with my dad to Shasta, California, a small town in Northern California near the Oregon border. Shasta is home to a potentially active volcano, named, of course, Mount Shasta. There's also a town called Mount Shasta. There are many trails on Mount Shasta, so my father and I were excited to do some hiking. See, this could have been you. We drove up the side of the mountain to the parking lot in which one of the trails begins. I believe it was called the Old Ski Bowl Trail. The landscape was a very barren incline filled with rocks, boulders, dirt, and very few trees. About an hour into the trail, we came across a very old assembly of these large boulders. They are arranged in a circle. We thought it was strange, but we continued on. If you look up pictures of the trail, you'll see much smaller rocks arranged in patterns and circles. My father and I only encountered 3 people. At least that's what they appeared to be at first.
Ooh. At least they encountered people.
Well, the first 2 were a father and son. We met them on a steep incline that went along the wall of a cliff that would then switch back as it reached the top of the cliff. We stopped and said hello, talked about the trail, and then went our separate ways. Here's where it gets weird. Dad and I kept walking up the incline for just about 2 minutes. I turned around and saw the father and son so far down the trail. It should have taken them at least 20 minutes to get down to where they were, but somehow they were gone in only 2.
Wow.
To this day, I have absolutely no idea how that could have happened. There was no one else on the trail at that point, and I could see the colors of their shirts from a distance, so I knew it was them. I pointed it out to my dad, and we thought it was weird, but we didn't dwell on it, so we kept going.
It makes me kind of think like maybe that was a time slip too for them, where it had been 20 minutes.
Maybe.
But for them, it just felt like it had been.
Or maybe they were talking to ghosts.
Maybe.
So
either way, creepy.
Weird. Well, here's where it gets much weirder. As we reached the top of the cliff, there was another strange rock arrangement that was off to the side of the trail. This time, there were far more rocks than before, and they were now arranged in rows, almost like gravestones. We continued on the trail and reached another sort of incline with a switchback to reach the top of another cliff. We reached a point where we would need climbing gear to continue, so we decided to head back. When we turned around, I saw a man standing among the rocks staring at us. He was wearing a button-up shirt, cargo shorts, and a wide-brimmed straw hat. He was at a distance where I should have been able to make out his facial features, but it was almost as if he had none.
No.
Like his face was just flesh and skin.
No.
I pointed him out to my dad, and the man quickly ducked down behind a boulder.
Ew. Oh, that's giving me goosebumps. I don't like that.
And was peering out at us over the top of the boulder.
No.
It seemed almost playful, like a child trying to hide. For a few moments, I was out of it, and I have no recollection of what was going on. According to my dad, I just started walking towards the man in the hat. My dad was calling to me, Joshua, Josh, what are you doing? Where are you going?
Throw a stone at him or something, get his attention.
And then I came to. I was standing right at the edge of the cliff. It was a huge drop, enough to kill me or seriously injure me.
Why did his dad not run after him?
My dad grabbed me and pulled me back to the trail. Jeez, Lord.
I was so concerned.
I could see that. He told me to stay put, and my dad went down to the boulders to search for the man, but he wasn't there. There was nowhere for him to go except up or down the trail. It didn't make any sense. He just disappeared. I have no idea what was going on that trail, and I have no explanation for it. I've told this many times to family and friends, and no one has an explanation. I've done research and found similar stories about encounters with a man with no facial features wearing a hat. I've also read the Native American tribes from the area viewed Mount Shasta as a holy site. They believe it could act as a portal to other dimensions and that it is guarded by spirits who would potentially harm anyone who tried to go up the volcano. Oh, that's the other big thing. It's supposedly like a portal type thing.
Oh, I love
like that's a big one. So another Reddit user, White Glinko, shared their experience after recently having moved to the area near Mount Shasta. I recently moved to Weed, California.
Weed, California?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my God.
Fair place, which is a small town next to Mount Shasta, for work. I'm an avid hiker and love exploring, so naturally 2 days ago I decided to go hike the mountain on one of my days off. Not entirely sure why, but I decided to drive my car very deep into the forest surrounding the base of the mountain as far as the dirt road would allow me. Some say the forest is also a bad place. Bad vibes.
Forests are usually.
It was around 3 p.m. with a clear sky, so I was very confident and enjoying the scenery as I got out of my car and started my hike, heading closer to the mountain. See, this also could have been you. At first, it was your regular everyday hike, lots of birds, squirrels around, the smell of nature that fills your lungs as you walk across the terrain. It wasn't until I reached a small dried-up river that I noticed something was off. As I stopped to look at the dried-up river and take pictures, I noticed that it was strangely very, very quiet.
No.
No birds chirping, no signs of squirrels or other animals, and even the sound of wind you hear when you're on a mountain seemed to be completely gone.
When Jared and I were walking, he made it a point multiple times to be like, it's so weird we're not seeing animals. And like, I know it's winter, but like, there should still be like squirrels or, yeah.
They're hibernating.
There were some squirrels out.
Some, but not
it was
many.
Just weird. There were no other animals.
Because they're sleeping.
I don't know. It was weird.
Did you notice the leaves also didn't have trees? I mean, the trees didn't.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
At the time, I thought it was just an odd coincidence and started walking up alongside the river. But as I kept walking and being able to hear my own footsteps, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Not the kind of feeling that makes you think someone is outside your window watching you, the kind of feeling that makes you feel multiple people or things are observing your every movement, which until I read this story, I was like, yes, those are two totally different feelings.
Yeah, they are.
Studying you.
Yes, gross.
Yeah.
Like a predator.
Yeah. Or, who knows? I've never had that kind of feeling in my life, but what happened after made me completely forget about that feeling. I suddenly started to hear something out of nowhere that sounded like angelic humming or maybe a song with no lyrics. But it also sounded strangely electric, like the sound telephone lines make. It wasn't very loud, but enough to make me look in the direction it was coming from. I looked to the other side of the dried up river that had multiple trees and other foliage to see someone or something looking straight at me.
Nope.
It almost looked like a ghost with it looking completely white, but this thing was very clearly there.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looked like it was wearing a robe, but I couldn't see any feet, hands, or even a face, although it had an oval head.
Right.
However, I could feel it looking straight at me, almost as if it were trying to remember every detail.
Did it also not have a face, or was it just like something that it was like kind of so blurry that it couldn't?
Yeah, I don't think it didn't seem like this was the same as what the dad and son saw.
Okay.
Even from far away, I could tell that its entire body had a very weird texture, almost like porcelain if porcelain was silky fabric.
Ew.
So I don't think it's the same thing.
No.
It was very obviously not human. I was very understandably in complete shock and terror, frozen in place, kind of scared. We both looked at each other for what felt like forever, but it was most likely only 20 or 30 seconds. I very, very slowly started walking backwards. I don't think I took more than 2 steps when it tilted its head, as if it was curious or even surprised at what I was doing. All the while, I could still hear that electric angelic humming. I swear it got a little louder when I took those steps back. When I turned my head to look behind me to make sure that it was clear so I could run, this song suddenly stopped, abruptly, without warning. This shocked me, and when I turned back to look at the thing, it was gone. No sign of it anywhere. As soon as I saw that it disappeared, I ran as fast as I could, following the path I took back. See how she went back down the path she came? She didn't keep going?
If I had seen something creepy, we would have turned back.
Even after it had disappeared and while I was running, I could still feel like I was being watched from all sides. I almost tripped a few times in how fast I was going.
I tripped a few times just walking normally.
Right?
God.
Same. When I got to my car, sounds of animals and the mountain wind suddenly came back, but I was still scared out of my mind and drove as fast as I could away from the mountain. I've never had anything paranormal happen to me in the past, and I've honestly always been very skeptical of stuff like this. But this experience has left me questioning a lot of things. I don't think I want to go back on that mountain. I even had a nightmare about the experience. I'm not even sure what I saw or what to call it.
Ew.
So a lot of the comments on both of these posts were mostly people confirming that Mount Shasta's got some spooky shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
There was hundreds of comments, so I didn't scroll, but like the ones that I saw right away were like, yeah, this place is super creepy. All this stuff happens. I had a friend of a friend, or I had this experience. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
like I heard that place is creepy. Like it was all validation of these experiences, which was crazy. So Taylor Tupper, a Maddock Indian from the Kalamath tribes who grew up in the Kalamath Basin just north of Shasta, explains, quote, Shasta is where Gumukamuk, the creator, resided and the original bones of the Maddock people are placed. She emphasizes her practice of bringing offerings like water or tobacco when visiting because she wants to approach the mountain with respect and positive intentions, saying, quote, I never want to come to the mountain in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
However, Tupper acknowledges that Mount Shasta holds even more significance. Quote, we'd be silly to think that we're the only ones here in this vast universe, she remarks.
Yeah.
Tupper points out that the volcano is also considered the home of the Matai Kagmi, the Modoc term for Bigfoot, known as the Keepers of the Woods. Tupper notes, quote, Bigfoot has been in existence as long as our people have. I haven't seen them myself, but maybe I wasn't chosen to see them. I have different gifts.
Ooh.
So, YouTuber, Basecamp Chris, shared a story about a boy and his dad who went for a hike in the mountains and how what they saw, it is believed that is a government cover-up because you can't have a mystical mountain without a conspiracy.
Of course not.
And this guy is just like kind of wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to have a lot of, it was very like campfire vibes.
Okay.
He even had some like pictures. It was very fun. But I wrote the notes and then I was like, girl, it is 1:45. So I said, ChatGPT, turn my notes into a funny ghost story. And so this is what we came up with.
Okay.
In the heart of the Shasta Trinity National Forest, where the vast expanse of 2.2 million acres held secrets untold, a chilling tale unfolded. It was a winter's day in 1999. A young Tyler from the town near Mount Shasta found himself caught in an otherworldly experience. The snowfall was relentless, forcing the schools to close early. Excitement bubbled within Tyler as he arrived home to discover his father also enjoying a snow day. With a vintage sled in hand, they embarked on a sledding adventure, steering down a desolate hill surrounded by the magical dance of falling snow. So you know those like old ones that had like little things? That's the kind it was.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. As the minutes passed, joy turned into trepidation. Atop the hill, Tyler's father fixated on a dark figure near the tree line. A creature standing on two legs emerged, a daunting presence 80 to 85 yards away. The air thickened with fear as the creature dropped to all fours and charged up the hill.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Its eyes locked on the father-son duo.
Nope.
In a frantic escape, the sled hurtled down the hill, the creature in pursuit.
No.
Tyler, eyes shielded in terror, glanced back to witness a monstrous being, broad-shouldered and covered in shiny black hair, galloping towards them. The father shouted at the creature, urging it to retreat, and miraculously, they reached the bottom unscathed. Encountering armed men resembling military personnel, the father hesitated to disclose the creature's location. A silent understanding passed between father and son, a shared compassion for the mysterious being. As they departed, the father revealed that he had glimpsed fear in the creature's eyes, realizing the simple desire to be left alone.
Aww.
The experience etched into Tyler's memory a ghostly tale of a clandestine encounter with a Sasquatch on the slopes of Mount Shasta. The compassion his father displayed lingered, haunting Tyler's thoughts of what mankind might do if they stumble across such a mysterious being. The chilling winds of that winter day carried with them the echoes of a hidden world forever etched in the snowy landscape of Shasta Trinity National Forest.
You know how I feel about things crawling.
Oh yeah, I'm picturing this thing like, have you seen that TikTok of that fucking baby?
No.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to show you because this baby, like, it doesn't crawl like a normal baby. It gets up on all fours and runs like some weird spider.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate things crawling and like things that should be on two legs getting down and like chasing you on four.
Part of the story too was like when Tyler looked back, once they got to the bottom, they could see the creature like pacing back and forth and it was back on two legs.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that so much.
I thought it was kind of a nice ending. That was
Yeah.
wholesome.
It is wholesome at the end, but it's like, why did you chase me then if you want to be left alone?
Because it wants to be left alone.
Then don't chase me. I will leave you if you just ask nicely.
It might not have been in his vocabulary. In more recent and wildly accepted ghost stories, sections of the I-5 interstate highway that runs parallel to Mount Shasta are rumored to be haunted with various unidentified spirits, potentially those who met their end in accidents or manifestations of urban legends. The remnants of Old Shasta Town, dating back to the 19th century and located south of Mount Shasta and west of Redding, were once the county seat and are said to harbor a few spectral entities. Particularly, the old courthouse is notorious for echoing with sounds reminiscent of past criminal trials, while Gallows Park at the rear still resonates with the lingering protests of those who met their demise at the gallows. Additionally, a Pioneer Babies grave site situated on the old Highway 99, formerly a stagecoach road, is believed to be haunted with a malevolent presence. So it's actually an interesting story, because I watched this one video and this guy was pretty much going through the history of this abandoned town, and I was like, well, I think this is very interesting, but there's no ghosts. He just talks about each thing and how it came along. And the story about this baby is that there was this couple who lived somewhere else, and their baby died, and they're Jewish, and there was no Jewish cemetery or even a community where they lived, but there was one in this town. So they made the trek up there, which now, in modern times, quick drive, but then super long.
Right, like a trek.
Yeah. And like the community like met them, and they like, you know, buried this baby and even like diverted like a road or something so that it wouldn't obviously mess anything up. And the guy was saying that like today people still bring the grave like toys and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. So
that's sweet.
It's actually very sweet. I only saw one place that said that the baby haunted the place, but it sounded more interesting than the history. Okay. So those are ghosts, Bigfoot, and anomalous individuals. UFO sightings. Strange lights have been observed on Mount Shasta since the time of the first settlers, and likely even earlier. These lights are most commonly seen around dawn, dusk, and midnight. While indigenous people may have interpreted them as ghosts, some newcomers embraced the notion that these lights were connected to ceremonies of the Lemurians. The lights gained widespread attention, attracting curious individuals. Historical records from the early 20th century mentioned that passengers on passing trains would gather at windows during specific times, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious lights.
Oh, that's cool.
Even today, reports of these unexplained lights persist, with many linking them to UFO activity. Live web cameras focused on the mountain offer continuous monitoring, allowing anyone interested to observe Mount Shasta in real time.
That's really cool.
Pamela Padula, great name, brings a unique background to the table, years of experience working in fire lookout stations and a family deep-rooted in law enforcement in the region. Her presence can be instrumental in persuading the old-timers that sharing their sightings won't subject them to be labeled as crazy, because she shares hers, and this guy's trying to collect a whole bunch. Recalling an incident from her teenage years, Padula recounted, quote, "I once witnessed 3 small triangular craft hovering noiselessly in formation. My boyfriend's sister and future in-laws were there to witness it with me. She emphasized, I do not know what I saw. I can't confirm if it was anything extraterrestrial, but it was undoubtedly unidentifiable to me." Around Mount Shasta, there are thousands of lava tube caves, and one of the eeriest among them is Pluto Cave. It was formed around 119,000 years ago by a basaltic lava flow. Initially sacred to Native American Indians, obviously, the cave was discovered by white settlers in 1863.
Of course it was.
Right. Given its dark and foreboding nature, it was named after Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld, and alternatively known as Pluto Cave, Pluto's Cave, or Pluto Caves.
I like that.
Which one that it has the different names?
That they named it after Pluto.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's cool.
So Pluto Cave has gained a reputation in some circles as a location to encounter aliens or various spirit beings believed to reside in its deep recesses. Evidence like small fire sites and ritual objects left behind suggests that the cave was once used for all-night ceremonies and vigils, often for paranormal or spiritual purposes. Stories circulate about individuals going mad after spending the night there and encountering unspeakable paranormal horrors. However, these tales often sound like urban legends passed down through friends and friends of friends. Nevertheless, many visitors find the cave to be eerie and unsettling. So, similar to other national parks and mystical mountains, there are many reported disappearances from Mount Shasta.
I love them.
The kind of disappearances where it seems like they literally vanished into thin air. However, this story is already 14 pages at the time that I am writing this, and I have 2 more stories to write, so you can either look them up on your own or wait for part 2 somewhere down the road.
I could do part 2 somewhere down the road.
You could do part 2 somewhere down the road, because at this point I was at 14 pages and I knew I still had more to write. And I was like, I can't include them. I'm going to have to come back. Taylor Tupper, the Madoc Indian from the Kalamath tribes, says she leaves people to their own beliefs about Shasta as well, spiritual, metaphysical, or simply on another plane. She says, quote, people always ask me about UFOs and such, and I say I'm not going to go poking around others' business. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Every place you go is sacred or special to someone or something, or was at some point. Treat it all with respect, and your spirit will be in tune with nature and the creator, and you won't be going against spiritual law. If you're going against it, nature will let you know.
Okay.
And that is just, you know how they are like, oh, the tip of the iceberg. Then there's so much down at the bottom.
Right.
This is like the tip of the tip. Jeez. Because there was so much that like I had to leave out that I'm like.
So not even 101. This is just one.
Yeah, this is like the if you were reading a book, this would be the preface that's in the front.
Yes, thank you.
That you got to read before you can get to the rest of it.
Dang.
And like this gives you a good solid background information so that if you do go and explore it, then you like have like okay, this is what the main legends and stories are, and now I can go find the fun stuff. Even if I didn't include the story, all of the websites that I went to and read on, I included in my sources.
Ooh, fun.
So people can go and look and see some of the other stories. Like there was a whole thing on Mysterious Universe about the different disappearances.
Ooh, this was fun.
Yeah. So there's still so much more.
Creepy.
Like there's still many stories and I'm like, well, sorry, but you didn't make the cut. It's a crazy mountain.
Yeah.
Very crazy.
Ooh, I liked this one.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Everything and anything that could possibly happen in any sort of paranormal or mystical way happens at this mountain.
Love those.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And the town seems really cool with it and like embraces it. And
see, also what I love.
Yeah.
When someone's like, okay, I know we're creepy, we're just going to embrace it.
Although I did read somewhere, like someone was like, you know, because they know these type of people are going to come, there are con artists who will
of course
try to, you know, say that buy this $100 crystal and your life will be fantastic.
Of course,
So
always.
you do have to be careful for those, but they, you know, are used to people kind of coming in. Like there was one article I read where people kept saying like, you know, I went and visited there because it just, you know, I lived in New York and I could just hear the mountain calling me. Like it just called me to it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
It's paranormal mountain.
It's a paranormal mountain.
Well, nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Okay. What tea you pouring? Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What tea you pouring, Lauren? I keep wanting to say today.
That's why. No. So one of our lovely listeners told us, hey, when you guys get to California, you should do this guy, Spade Cooley. And so we immediately added California to our list and added Spade Cooley. I had the displeasure of doing the research about Spade Cooley.
Well, you looked him up before I could because we both forgot what it was about. And you said, I'm doing this one.
Yeah, so Bert Kearns and Jeff Abram from Please Kill Me, that's their website, said this the best about the man I'm going to cover today. And this is the sentence I read where I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Spade Cooley was a virtuous fiddler and Roy Rogers movie stand-in who had 6 consecutive top 10 hits and was considered Hollywood's king of Western swing.
I feel like I've heard the name before.
You probably have.
Yeah.
He was also a mean, jealous, paranoid, violent, alcoholic man who brutally murdered his wife in front of their daughter.
Who wasn't in the 50s?
But most of them did not brutally murder their wife.
Yeah, I mean, that part is unique.
Yeah, a little bit. Donnell Clyde Cooley was born on December 17th, 1910 in Grand, Oklahoma. That's what the city's called, Grand. Right, not like Grand, Oklahoma. His father made a living by playing the fiddle for local dances. Donnell was
So when they said he was a fiddler, they meant legitimately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is his dad, but he will also be a fiddler.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Donnell was 1/4 Cherokee, so he was sent to the Chamawa Indian School in Salem, Oregon. When he wasn't at school, he wanted to become a concert cellist or violist, but his family had no money for lessons, so instead he followed in his father's footsteps and became a very accomplished fiddler and an amateur boxer on the side.
Oh, wow.
During the Dust Bowl in 1930, Cooley's parents packed up the family and moved to sunny California. Donnell was known by that name for a while, but it was while in California where he would finally receive the name he would use and be known as, Spade Cooley. He got this name after he drew 3 consecutive hands of spades, one being a straight flush, all during a game of poker. That name stuck.
Okay.
In 1934, Cooley showed up at the gates of the Republic Pictures in Studio City with only 6 cents in his pocket and a fiddle in his hand, determined to make something of himself. He actually hung around there quite a bit and eventually snuck into a Gene Autry set. He was caught, but when Autry saw him, he noticed how closely Cooley resembled Roy Rogers and introduced the two. Every time I hear Roy Rogers, I think of the restaurant, like the fast food Roy Rogers chain.
I think of the rabbit.
Roger Rabbit? Mm-hmm. How do you get Roger Rabbit from Roy Rogers?
Roger.
Oh, yeah, duh. My brain did not want to connect those two together. So from there, Cooley would play Roy's movie stand-in for 3 years and appear in over 38 Western films. In 1936, Rogers made Cooley the main fiddle player and vocalist in his Sons of the Prairie's Western singing group. Sons of the Pioneers. Another website said his band was called Riders of the Purple Sage.
Was it very different?
But I was not able to find the Riders of the Purple Sage anywhere else. It was always just Sons of the Pioneers.
Okay.
So moving on from that, in 1942, Cooley joined Jimmy Walkley's Western Swing Band. For any of you like me who don't know who Jimmy Walkley is, Walkley, I don't know. He was an actor, songwriter, country music vocalist, and known as one of the last singing cowboys. He was big in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The swing band was big, attracting thousands of dancers every Saturday night at the Venice Pier Ballroom and soon the Aragon Ballroom at Ocean Park. And people were quickly starting to take notice of Cooley. He had the fancy fiddling and footwork, thanks to his amateur boxing.
Say that 5 times fast.
In 1944, Wakely got a Hollywood movie contract with Universal Pictures, leaving the band to Cooley, who quickly turned it into the largest big band in the country, and with them releasing 6 consecutive top 10 records, including the #1 hit, Shame on You, which remained at #1 on the country charts for 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. His 18-month engagement at the Venice Pier Ballroom was record-breaking at the time in the 40s, with as many as 8,000 people a night coming to enjoy the music.
I feel like this is why I've heard his name before.
He was huge.
It's got to be mentioned in some country song.
Oh, probably. He was huge. And on a lot of the articles I found, there were like other places you could read about him or hear about him. He had so many songs.
Yeah.
You'll hear why you've heard about him. So he quickly gained even more popularity for this and soon scored himself his own music and variety television show known as The Spade Cooley Show. The show also got big and stayed big well into the 50s. It won local Emmy Awards and had many famous guests on, such as Frank Sinatra and Dina Shore, but it was eventually canceled in 1956 and was replaced by Cliff Stone's Hometown Jamboree.
Riveting.
I know. Soon, Spade Cooley became known as Hollywood's king of Western swing after he allegedly won a battle of the bands against Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys at the Venice Pier Ballroom. And then on February 8th, 1960, his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was laid. New Year's Eve of that year, Cooley performed at his final public concert, announcing his retirement right after. So he sounds like a really cool guy, you know, like cool, successful, doing big things for himself. Well, like I said at the beginning, he was mean, jealous, violent, paranoid, and an alcoholic.
And apparently a murderer.
Well, we'll get to that. So the alcohol brought out his darker side.
Yeah, he murdered someone.
Let me get to things.
You already said at the beginning that he killed his wife.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten there yet. He's a real awful person beforehand.
He's really shitty from this point up until the very end.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, actually. So when he got drunk, it was very common for him to get into fights with his friends and band members, firing them many times. Then the next day, when he was sober, he would crawl back to them, cowboy hat in hand, begging for them to come back. Some did, some didn't. He even fired one of his band members right on stage in front of a packed house. There's also a story of him getting so mad at a female band member wanting to quit that he threw her off the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh my God.
So alcohol and this man, not a good combo. So that was his professional life, all of his achievements and whatnot, kind of showing you where he got to where he is now. Well, to that point. So now we need to go on to his personal life. So this is where it gets really bad.
A full live Wikipedia page.
Yeah, so I'm just going to like throw a lot of major trigger warnings throughout here. So for
blanket trigger warning.
Yeah.
Of like
blanket trigger warning, but I'll also give trigger warnings when it's going to get real bad.
Okay.
Because it gets real bad.
Okay.
So for most of his rise to stardom, Spade was married to his high school sweetheart, Anne, and they had been married for 11 years at this point, having gotten married at the age of 17. Together, they had one son named John. What?
Getting married at 17.
I know. You can't even drink at your own wedding.
They probably could in the 1940s and 50s.
I think the age was 18.
I don't know if they had a law then.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it was very recent.
I don't know. So as he started to get big, right around the time that he took over Wakely's band, Spade hired a 21-year-old singer named Ella Mae Evans. She had been hired to play clarinet for one gig the band had played, but she remained. She had no voice, but she had the looks. She was 15 years younger than Spade, 5'4", barely 100 pounds, with blonde hair and brown eyes.
Oh man, those blinds.
They get you. She didn't have the voice, but Spade had the only vote about who got to join the band, and Ella May got that vote.
Of course she did.
Of course. Just 3 years later, in 1945, the two were married, and Ella May became Spade's second wife, him having just up and left the first one, abandoning her and their 11-year-old son. It also appears that this year Spade was arrested for rape, but was acquitted, because he was friends with the cops. While on stage performing together, Spade would introduce his new wife as, quote, the prettiest little filly in California. I don't know what any of that means, but... And this didn't last long. Spade wanted Ella May to focus on being a good housewife and raising a family, so she soon quit the business and focused on what Spade wanted instead. Their daughter, Melody, was born the following year, which honestly, very clever name for musical people naming their child Melody.
It's so fucking cliche.
I liked it. Shortly after the birth of Melody, Ella May caught Spade with... Ella May sounds weird. Ella May caught Spade with another woman.
LMAO.
Yeah. Not wanting to deal with that, Ella May decided to pack up her bags and leave Spade, planning to take her daughter with her. Well, Spade found out about her plans and was not okay with that. He threatened to kill her if she left, and that even if she did leave, he'd find her. So she stayed. But shortly after that, things had gotten worse, so she ran away to Texas to her sister's house to escape him. But Spade was right. He found her and went right to Texas.
Oh, no.
He walked right into her sister Elizabeth's house and into the living room. He grabbed Ella May's arm and twisted it behind her back, all while she was yelling, "Don't let him take me. Don't let him take me." Elizabeth's husband tried to intervene, but Spade hit him and continued on, taking his wife back to California with him.
Oh my God. That is what we call kidnapping.
Yeah. But, I mean, at that point, she's married to him. So at that point, women
Yeah, but
were...
she didn't want to go.
Yeah, but women were pretty much property.
Well, that's true. She would not have won in any sort
She
of
would not
sense.
have.
She would not have been victorious in that complaint. Howsoever, it's still kidnapping.
Right. So like I said, he was violent and jealous, so that abuse and jealousy continued on strong in their marriage. In 1948, the two had another child, Donnell Jr. By now it was the 1950s, and this is when he had his Spade Cooley show, which was eventually canceled in 1956, so his career was cooling off a bit by this point. And with the cooling of his career, Spade moved his family from their mansion on Ventura Boulevard to a home way out in the Mojave Desert to eastern Kern County known as Water Wonderland Ranch.
Okay.
He claimed the reason for this move was that he wanted his children to be raised out in the country, not in the city. And this isolation wasn't good, and here's where the abuse escalated. Okay, so here's also what's kind of weird, I guess not super surprising. So he kept their Ventura Boulevard mansion in LA. He would spend a lot of time in LA still working and leave Ella May out in the desert alone to raise their two children. So when he was out in LA, the mansion pretty much became a bachelor pad.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
With different women spending the night quite often in the mansion.
I have no doubt. That's why he moved his family out there. So he'd be a little playboy without peering eyes.
Yep, though he's jealous. But it's fine when he does it.
Do as I say, not as I do.
In 1943, Bobby Bennett, his longtime manager, claimed in an unpublished manuscript that in 1 year alone, she had paid for 10 women to get abortions.
And he's definitely the kind of motherfucker that would have overturned Roe v. Wade, too.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so she paid off 10 different women who all, you know.
For those of you that are unaware, our politicians probably still do that today.
They do.
Probably the ones that are most loudest about overturning Roe v. Wade are the ones that probably use it the most.
Still the most saddest day. By this point, with his show being canceled and he no longer playing with his band, Spade was semi-retired, sitting on about $15 million in the bank.
Damn.
Which in today's money would be over $191 million.
Damn.
So, you know,
He's loaded.
he's doing fine.
Yeah.
And with all of this free time, he decided to focus on Water Wonderland, with dreams of making it a 1,000-acre amusement park with swimming pools, boat racing, and a broadcast studio so that he could create a new television show. So the reason why he had this whole dream was Disneyland had just opened a couple years before.
Yep. In the 50s, that's right.
Yep. So this was fresh on everyone's mind, so
Yeah.
everyone wanted this amusement park. But free time usually isn't good, especially for Spade. While envisioning the new Wonderland, he also had time to drink and think back on his popular days before his new wife came into the picture and ruined it all for him. He was also very convinced that Ella May was cheating on him, though she was rarely ever allowed to leave their secluded
That's what
ranch.
they call projecting.
And was allowed no visitors, even when he was away spending time in other women's arms in LA. If she had to go to the grocery store, he would question her on every single move she made while there. There was actually one time when he was so convinced that she was having an affair with two of his business associates, Bud Davenport and Luther Jackson, who were openly gay, that he actually pushed her from a moving car they had been in together. He would also interrogate her of her having an affair with Davenport and Jackson and hit her when she denied that anything was happening. They're an openly gay couple. And his business associates. And his drinking was only getting worse. At first,
when straight guys are like, I mean, I don't care if you're gay, but I just don't want to be hit on.
you're like, don't hit on me. Okay. At first, it was just the alcohol, but soon enough, he started mixing it with Torazine, the first antipsychotic medication created for those with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia.
Oh, no.
These two things, very bad things to be mixing.
He mixed it for himself?
Yeah, just because he was doing the alcohol and then it was starting to be the pills.
Oh, Lordy.
So leaping forward a year, in February of 1961, Ella May had to be admitted to the hospital for a nervous breakdown and was diagnosed with extreme strain. And multiple times while she was in the hospital, she told the staff that she was in fear of her husband. He was constantly accusing her of sleeping around, having affairs with other men, women, and even his old boss, Roy Rogers. She said that he often hit her over the years and that the abuse kept getting worse and more severe. She said that Spade often threatened to murder her and her children if she ever tried to leave him, and she was terrified. Mm-hmm. At one point, she was told that Spade was coming to visit her in the hospital. Ella May screamed that he was coming to murder her right then and there. She locked herself in the bathroom of her hospital room until nurses were able to convince her that he wasn't there and it was safe to come out.
Oh, my God.
On March 11th, Ella May called Davenport and Jackson from the hospital, speaking to them for 45 minutes, telling them how she was in fear of her life and her children's lives, because she's very close with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
obviously, she's having an affair.
Yeah, right, with the gay men.
Right.
So during her call with the two, Spade had also been trying to call her and kept getting a busy signal. When he was finally able to speak to her, he asked her who she was on the phone with for so long. He then lied and told her that he already knew. He had the lines at the hospital being monitored, so he knew who she was talking to and what they were talking about.
Oh, you can't do that.
Ella May believed this, because why wouldn't she? So she thought that he heard her talking to the men about the money she'd been sending them.
Oh.
So over a short span of time, she had been sending small amounts of money to Davenport and Jackson for safekeeping.
Oh.
In the event that she was ever able to leave the marriage, she knew she'd be left with nothing and would need something just in case.
Nice.
So she's kind of putting money
Smart
away.
lady.
So smart. So thinking this is what Spade heard her talking about, she said, "So what? Now you know."
Oh.
Well, Spade thought that this confession was of Ella May having an affair.
With two gay men.
And from that moment on, he began telling any and everyone that she was having one. And you know how he thought Ella May was having an affair with these two men? Mm-hmm. Well, he went to the house of Davenport and Jackson with two friends as backup at 3 a.m. He called them homosexuals, lied that he had recorded all of their phone calls with Ella May, and punched Davenport in the face. Right before he left, he told Davenport to move out of California or else he would kill them along with Ella May. And with that, he turned and walked away. So keep in mind that Davenport and Jackson are Spade's business associates.
Yeah.
Like, you're in business together.
Yeah.
While she was in the hospital and terrified, Ella May hired a female attorney to start the divorce proceedings.
Yes.
Claiming that her husband beat her and that the abuse was increasing.
Women supporting women.
Yes. And leading her to be fearful of her life and scared that one day Spade would actually kill her. When Spade found out about this, he responded by harassing her and abusing her even more. Then on March 15th, while looking through her purse, Spade found a $200 money order. Thinking he already knew that she was sending the money to Davenport, and I don't know why she did this, but she tells him that she's in love with Bud and had been sending him money to invest for her.
Mm.
It could be what he said happened, but
right.
That's apparently what happened on March 15th. Mm-hmm. Then on March 17th or 21st, it got a little confusing with the dates. He himself filed for divorce in Bakersfield, citing incompatibility and extreme cruelty. The extreme cruelty was because she loved another man, and he wanted custody of their children. He even told reporters, quote, "Ella May has moved out and I'm heartsick, but there isn't a chance of reconciliation." But in reality, Ella May never moved out. She was still on the ranch, but at this point she was virtually a prisoner. And Spade made sure she would remain a prisoner as he removed all of the cords from the phone so that she would be able to call anyone for help.
That's terrifying.
I know. On March 23rd, Spade beat Ella May badly, and during this time, he forced her to sign 4 deeds. The deeds essentially transferred all of their joint properties to him alone.
Oh my God.
Then the next day, March 24th, Spade made a call to the violinist in his band, Anita Eros. He told her that he was getting a divorce and asked her to marry him when the divorce was final.
Ew.
Thinking he was joking, she agreed. Just a few days later, he calls her back, telling her the exact date that they will be married, and even having Melody get on the phone to tell Anita how she was looking forward to having a new mother.
Ew!
This is when Anita was like, something's fucked up here.
Yeah.
In the following days, Spade forced Ella May to call her friends and tell them that she was having an affair. He forced her to tell her daughter Melody, who was 14 at the time, and he forced her to sign a confession of her affair as well.
Jesus Christ.
On March 13th, Ella May called her sister and told her that she was in bad shape and that she desperately needed to get away from Spade. Her sister told her to wait for a call from someone who can help her, so I guess someone was going to call soon. Mm-hmm. This would end up being the last time that the sisters ever spoke. On March 31st, Ella May had been to see a nurse. Spade had been driving the two of them, and while driving, he was beating and choking her.
Jesus
to get
Christ.
away from him, she jumped from the moving car.
Oh my God.
This was the 3rd or 4th time that year that she had to do this to get away from him. So Spade has a business associate living on the property a ways away, Gerald Enfield. On April 3rd, 1961, Enfield stopped by the house where Spade told him that he finally had concrete evidence that his wife had been having multiple affairs. This is when he pulled out that written confession by Ella May. Gerald looked at the confession before saying, quote, "Yes, it's Ella May's handwriting, Spade, but I know how you got it." What difference does it make? He spat back. At 2 a.m., 2 business associates stopped by to do some business things with Spade. At 4 p.m., Melody called a nearby friend to ask if she and her brother could come spend the night there. 40 minutes later, another business associate rolled up. Soon after that, Spade and the 3 business associates got into an argument over the proper way to handle a mundane payroll matter. Spade shoved one of the guys, challenged him to a fight, then kicked him out of the house when the guy wouldn't fight. Spade then tried to talk the other into going over to Davenport and Jackson's house to fight them again. Both men declined and one ultimately left. At this point, it's only Spade and his business associate Elsie Martin at the house when Ella May walked into the room and sits down. Martin later recalled that she looked pale and had a black eye, but other than that, had no visible bruises or cuts. Spade kept trying to convince Martin to go with him to beat up the 2 men, but after a while of this and growing tired of it, Martin left the residence at 5:45 p.m. At about 6 p.m., Ella May called the home where Melody was staying and told her to come home. Melody said she didn't want to. This is when...
Blame her.
No, she's trying to just not be in the house.
Terrified.
This is when Spade got on the line and told her that he understood why she didn't want to come home. She didn't want to see her mother. Melody told her dad that she did want to see her mom, so Spade told her she better come home then. Unbeknownst to her family, Melody spoke to Miss McWhorter, whose house she was staying at, and asked if she could be given a ride home. She then asked Miss W, or I'm just Miss M. She then asked Miss M if after she was dropped off, if she could come back 20 minutes later and pick her up again. She didn't really want to be home for long. But between the time that Martin left and Melody arrived home, Spade beat Ella May in a brutal and savage attack. It gets so bad. Okay. He knocked her to the floor in their living room and dragged her into their bedroom. It was so bad that blood spatter made it onto the walls, the floor, and onto his pants.
Oh my God.
He choked her, stomped her, and yanked her hair out of her head. He then used the handle of a broom to rape her. In this short amount of time, she sustained the following injuries. And super, super, super trigger warning for this. And this is coming straight from the podcast Cocaine and Rhinestones, because I didn't want to have to reword anything.
Yeah.
So this is straight from their website. So these are her injuries. Her lips were split open. The skin of her chin was cracked and bleeding. Her neck, nose, shoulder, chest, hip, arms, wrist, and legs all suffered deep bruising and or broken bones or cartilage. The nipples of her left breast were burnt black and partially separated from the breast. She was missing a clump of hair from her head, and wounds found in her vaginal and rectal tissues were consistent with a bloody mucus deposit,
Oh my God.
which extended 5 or 6 inches down the end of a broom handle. It was in the middle of this attack that Melody walked into the house.
Oh my God.
She first heard her father on the phone telling someone not to call the police. She asked if the police were coming, and he said that, yes, they were on their way and it'll all be over soon. Melody noticed that the living room showed signs of a struggle. She saw the overturned furniture and the blood spattered all over. "Come here, I want you to see your mother," Spade said to Melody, as he led her to the bedroom, through the dining room with the broken furniture, glass, and bottles. He walked her into the bedroom that had blood on the walls. Ella May was not there, so Spade walked he and his daughter into the bathroom. "Get up, Ella May," he demanded. "Melody is here." While Melody was standing outside of the bathroom door, Spade dragged Ella May out.
Oh my God.
She was nude, bruised, and covered in blood. He slammed her onto the floor of the bedroom twice. He then said, "Melody, I'll give you 3 minutes to get her off the floor, or I'll kill her if you don't get her up."
Oh my God.
It's so bad, Mackenzie.
Fucking sick.
With that, he walked into the living room, sat down, and began a countdown. Melody tried as hard as she could to get her mother up.
Oh my God. I can't even.
I know. But her body had gone completely limp. As she was trying, she heard her father counting down from the living room. 1 minute left. Half a minute left. But she couldn't get her mother up. "Time's up, Melody," he called as he sauntered into the bedroom, a rifle in hand. "All right, Melody, you're going to watch me kill her," he said, as he stomped Ella May in the abdomen 3 times while calling her a slut. Medical examiners would later conclude that those stomps were what finally caused her to die 20 minutes later. And it continues to get bad, so this trigger warning still stands. Okay. Spade then said, quote, "We'll just see if you're dead," as he bent down and used his cigarette to burn her nipples. She didn't move. The phone suddenly rang in the next room, stopping Spade in his tracks. He calmly walked out of the room to answer it. So some gross stuff happened that I just didn't want to mention. But during that, Melody knew she had to get away. So thinking quickly on her feet, she told her father that she would
Did he
turn...
do anything to her?
He, I didn't really read it, and I didn't write it down, but, he, called her over and, tried to do some stuff to her that you could tell would have continued on if she wasn't smart.
Yeah.
So she told her father that she would go turn the shower off, which had been running this whole time. Spade thought that was a good idea, so he told her to go ahead and try to pour some water on Ella May to see if that would wake her up. Melody turned off the shower and returned to the living room when the phone rang again. There was also awful parts that I couldn't include. So this was a private investigator, Billy Lewis, who Spade had hired to confirm the details of his wife's confession. The PI explained that Ella Mae's confession wasn't adding up. She never stayed in any of the hotels that she claimed to be having affairs at. The whole time he was on the phone, Melody was looking out the window, hoping and praying for Miss M to show up. When Spade finally hung up, Melody lied and said that she saw Miss M coming down the road and she better go outside to meet her so that Miss M wouldn't come inside. She kissed her father on the cheek to keep up appearances and bolted out the front door. As she was running from the house, she heard her father call after her, telling not to tell the police anything or he might have to kill her too. So thank goodness Miss M did arrive shortly after, and Melody ran across the field to meet up with her. So it was a little before 9 p.m. when Spade's manager, Bobby Bennett, came by for an already scheduled meeting. In the middle of their meeting, Spade walked into the bedroom and looked at Ella Mae's body. He came back out to Bennett and told her that Ella Mae was hurt. Bennett said they should call a doctor, but Spade said no. They instead called a friend who was a nurse in LA, Dorothy Davis. They said there had been an accident and she needed to come out to the ranch. She said she would head there as soon as possible, but they should call an ambulance. But, of course, no ambulance was called. The LA nurse finally arrived at the ranch at 11 p.m., saw Ella Mae, and checked her pulse. She was declared dead. The nurse called the hospital and the sheriff's department. An ambulance arrived at 11:35 p.m. to retrieve a dead body. Ambulance attendant Richard Stickle later said that as he was loading Ella Mae into the back, Spade was there crying and saying, "I love you, please don't be dead." Spade was described right then as being dazed and incoherent. Ella Mae, 37, was declared dead on arrival at Tehachapi Hospital. Dr. Vincent Troy reported, quote, "There were numerous marks of external violence noted on the body consisting of bruises over the entire body, indicating that the victim had been beaten severely. A coroner's report also stated that there were numerous cigarette burns and trauma to Ella Mae's head, neck, chest, and genitals. The ultimate cause of death was internal bleeding from a ruptured aorta, a result of punching and kicking."
Oh my God.
So those stomps.
Mm-hmm.
By 3 a.m., Spade was in an interrogation room at the sheriff's department giving an official statement to County Sheriff Sergeant Thomas Schewel. In his statement, Spade claimed that his wife had simply fallen in the shower and the burns...
Again, I don't know if I should be more insulted that he lied or that he thought that someone would be so stupid to believe it. She just fell in the shower.
And the burns all over her body were from her burning her own flesh to prove that she loved him.
Of course it was.
But Spade also admitted that he may have slapped his wife once or twice, but a majority of her injuries came from when she jumped from their moving car a few days before and then fell in the shower the previous night. But he was unable to explain why his hands were swollen and bruised.
Oh, good Lord.
So I did not listen to the interrogation tape because I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I think it was Please Kill Me, that website. They said that, like, listen if you want to, but it's, like, really bad because this sergeant guy and Spade are kind of just, like, chatting like gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
And just chatting, having a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're talking about the murder of someone. How are you being so casual about it?
Yeah.
And he was like, it's not a good thing to listen to because it's gonna piss people off.
Yeah.
So following this interview/interrogation and a search of the Cooley Ranch, Spade Cooley was arrested on suspicion of murder and was taken to the Kern County Jail located in Bakersfield. Obviously, what happened got out and spread like wildfire. Spade Cooley was a very well-known man and very popular, so it was all in the media's eye. The person described it, they were like, think about if, like, SpongeBob was arrested and how big that would be.
Damn, they didn't even go with a real person.
I was like, that's amazing.
With a fucking cartoon.
I know. Like, and SpongeBob, like, when we were watching SpongeBob,
Yeah.
if he was arrested, that's how big this was.
Yeah.
Most people who heard about what happened believe there was no way that Spade Cooley could be guilty of such an awful crime.
Of course not.
While awaiting trial at the Kern County...
We all know celebrities so well.
Yeah, and because who they portray on TV is 100% who they are.
Completely accurate, yes.
So while awaiting trial at the Kern County Jail, it is said that Spade pretty much had free reign of the jail because of his celebrity status.
Of course he did.
Mm-hmm. He was permitted to walk freely out of his cell, and he took his meals with the guards in their separate dining room, where obviously the food was much better.
So it seems, I mean, maybe they do believe that he did it, but it sounds like they probably only kind of half believe.
And he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be able to eat dinner with a celebrity? Why not?
It's like, oh, well, maybe he's fine.
Right. And you're not going to be the person who puts a celebrity in a prison cell. Like, you're going to be the one who lets him do what he needs to do.
I just hope to God that when they find out what actually happened.
So while he was in jail waiting trial, he suffered a heart attack and had to be hospitalized.
Of course.
The trial of the murder of 37-year-old Ella Mae took place on July 10th, 1961 in the Bakersfield Superior Court. The trial would go on...
1961?
1961.
I thought this happened in 1963.
I never said 1963.
Definitely heard 1963.
April 3rd, 1961.
I don't know. I thought I heard 1963 at some point.
So the trial would go on to be the longest and most spectacular trial in Kern County history. People lined up outside of the courthouse early to try to get one of the 60-something seats that were available in the courtroom. This reminded me of like the Johnny Depp case when it was here, and people were like...
Or like OJ?
Yeah, where people were like lining up to get into the courtroom.
Yeah.
Spade was initially being presented by Morris Chain. Before anything really, Chain wanted Spade to plead guilty to second-degree murder to avoid a lurid trial. But Chain was quickly replaced by Hollywood lawyer P. Basil Lombrose. Lombrose then suggested that Spade plead both not guilty and not guilty due to insanity. But he was examined by 3 separate court-appointed shrinks, and each deemed him as sane, so the trial continued on.
It's fucking sicky psycho.
Yeah. So the testimonies that took place were shocking. The prosecution called 24 witnesses to the stand. One witness, Dorothy Davis, the nurse from LA who Spade called, testified that Ella May had told her that she was indeed having an affair with Roy Rogers.
Oh.
Davis went on to say that Ella May told her that she and Roy Rogers had become intimate while on a trip to Texas nearly 10 years before, around 1952 or 1953-ish time.
Damn.
Davis, though, said she did not believe Ella May, who had been under emotional duress when she made this confession.
Oh. It was one of those confessions.
Davis said she could not understand why Ella May would have lied about such a thing.
Right.
Roy Rogers' wife, Dale Evans, and Rogers' spokesperson were contacted later about this confession, and both said the claim was ridiculous.
Of course.
Anita Eros, the one who he proposed to, testified and spoke about his marriage proposal. Billy Lewis, the private investigator, also spoke. He was the one who called Spade when he answered the phone the night his wife died. He described a weird confession phone call he received from Ella May, where she spoke about the men she was having affairs with and the motel rooms they would meet at. He said that doing his job, he went to check the motel where these alleged affairs had occurred. There were 0 records that any of these meetups had actually happened. Because remember, she had been forced to call her friends and confess to these affairs.
Right. So not just written down, but like say, hey, I did this or
to
whatever.
All of her friends, private investigators, everyone.
Yeah.
Lewis said he could find no evidence that Ella May had been unfaithful with anyone. Then on July 27th, Melody took the stand.
Oh, God. Oh, that poor baby.
I know.
That poor baby.
Through gut-wrenching sobs, she told the court how she had arrived home to the ranch to see her father dragging her mother out of the shower, slamming her head on the floor, and burning her with cigarettes. She went into a full retelling of what she had witnessed that night. When she stepped off the stand, she and her father made eye contact, where they both paused and both began bawling. Apparently, it is said that Spade even fainted after her testimony.
I wonder, like, obviously he's now sober. And I want, like, you know, you see in those shows where, like, the person's tweaked out or whatever, and, like, they're super remorseful because they were high on whatever it was.
I don't think so, because the abuse had been going on for so long.
But that's what I was thinking. I was like, it was so intense and so, like, very deliberate and sadistic and whatever, that it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's not even like a moment of clarity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's, oh my God, this is what I've done. Look what I did to my daughter. Like, I can't believe I did that. I don't know. It's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
A recess had to be called, and Spade was taken to a holding cell with his defense lawyer, Leonard Winters. He became emotional again, saying over and over again, wasn't she beautiful? So this could either be in reference to his late wife or to his granddaughter, because apparently...
His daughter?
No, his granddaughter. Because apparently about a week into the trial, as Spade walked into the courtroom, he heard, "Hi, Grandpa." It was his 5-year-old granddaughter, Debbie. He burst into tears and rushed towards the courtroom doors. He had to be subdued by deputies. But either way, as he was saying this, either whoever he's referring to as being beautiful, the cigarette he was smoking fell from his mouth, and Winters knew what this meant. Spade was having another heart attack. He gave Spade a, quote, heart pill. I don't know what that is, but that's what it said in the article.
A bear?
Yeah, he was in their aspirin. And he called for the jail physician. Spade was administered oxygen, and he was taken to the county general hospital where an electrocardiogram was performed on him. He showed that there was no heart damage, so he was brought back to his cell to await the rest of his trial. Back at trial, he took his own stand. He said that on the day of her death...
This guy's a fucking moron.
I know.
Sadistic moron.
On the day of her death, his wife had finally come clean about her various sexual escapades. And this is what he said.
He's like, he literally has the balls to say all these people that talked before me did not tell the truth.
Right. And like, my daughter is just completely lying. But I will get to that. So he said that she admitted to her affair with Roy Rogers, whom Spade called his ex-best friend. He said that Roy Rogers would head out to Willow Springs, I guess another area of their ranch, to be with Ella May, while Spade was hard at work on his Saturday night TV show.
Honestly, at this point, you are one of the few people in life that you deserve to be cheated on. You deserve to be treated like absolute garbage.
Because he was doing it to her.
just an all-around
And
shitty
he's
and terrible person.
awful.
And I'm like, her cheating on you would have been like the nicest thing she could have done.
Right. So when asked how she got all of her injuries and the burns, he said that they were sitting on their bed having a discussion about her affairs. And she said, quote, "Donnell, you think I don't love you." She then grabbed a cigarette and burned her own breasts to show her love for him. It wasn't like LMA at all, Spade said. It was though she was an animal. He continued on and said that LMA had gotten into the shower alone, that he didn't push or shove her. Then he heard a terrible thud. He ran into the bathroom to help her, and that is where he found her, bloody and unconscious. He said, quote, "I rubbed her wrists, breathed in her mouth, put cold towels on her head, and I prayed." He then went to say that LMA had been part of a free love cult. He said that there were about 10 senior members of this cult, each of which had to recruit 10 more so that they could have a total of 100 members. And the leading members, the 3 founding members, were his wife, LMA, and his 2 business associates, Bud Davenport and Luther Jackson.
You know, it's interesting because there's the middle school that like my kids used to feed into is named Luther Jackson. So, I don't think it was named after him, but
Yeah. So about these 2, he said they were some of the homosexual menaces in America. And I use the word homosexual because that's what all the like articles used as the word, and that's the word that they used at the time, which is why I'm using that word.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It makes as much sense as him thinking his wife had an affair with 2 gay people.
part of the free love cult.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
right. And started a cult with
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Mhm.
So when he was asked how he knew they were gay, he said, quote, it's so stupid, quote, "They brought some boys up to my ranch that were completely on the limp wrist side." Uh-huh. I read that and I was like, what does that mean? I was like, oh my God.
Wait, so it wasn't, but I thought they were openly gay.
They were. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. They lived together. They weren't roommates. They lived together. They were dating.
Right.
So at first, Spade denied ever hitting his wife. But quickly after, he testified that he did strike his wife, but only after she admitted that she had engaged in unnatural acts with 2 men during cult things. But he said it was only ever a slap, nothing more, because he didn't think he'd actually be able to hit her with his fist.
Oh, of course.
He then said that he never meant to hurt her. He had blacked out after she told him that she was having sex with 2 other men. He said, quote, "Rockets ran through my brain when LMA told me of her desire to join a free love cult. I must have hurt her terrible." Though evidence showed that he had known about these alleged affairs for weeks. So it's
Right.
not like all of a sudden
Right.
he's known about it.
It's not like this all happened in one night.
Yeah. Prosecutor Nelson then asked why his daughter Melody would have made up such a horrible story about witnessing the murder. Spade said that his daughter did it out of anger because he forbade her from dating older boys. So this was her act of revenge.
Even though she has a kid.
She doesn't have a kid.
So,
First wife?
Right.
Okay, so then, yeah, it was probably his first son.
Okay.
Who,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
his first son, grandchild.
Mm-hmm. God, you wonder what the fuck went through his first wife's head.
God, I know.
Like,
Thank God he abandoned us.
right.
So at the end of his questioning, Prosecutor Nelson described the killing as, quote, "murder by torture." He went on to say, quote, "Mr. Cooley is not normal. He is abnormal, has sadistic tendencies and a dual personality. His recollections are convenient memory to Mr. Cooley, but he doesn't recall when things look bad for Mr. Cooley."
Yes, sir.
The 10 men, 2 women jury deliberated after the 6-week trial.
10 men.
Yep, and only 2 women.
Well, I mean, it is 1961.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
So they deliberated on August 19th, 1961. It took them 19 hours and 14 minutes to come up with a verdict. Oh, you'll trust me, it doesn't get better.
There were questions?
It doesn't get better.
Oh my fucking God.
There were many television, radio, and newspaper reporters in the courtroom when the jury gave their verdict. Spade Cooley was found guilty of first-degree murder.
Good.
George C. Flowers from the Long Beach Independent Press Telegram reported that he, quote, "he sat almost impassively when he heard the verdict read by a clerk. At first, he seemed to stare blankly at the jury. Then his face seemed to dissolve into the handkerchief in his hand, and it was obvious that he was crying, albeit quietly." After they read the verdict, some jurors were crying. Others rose to hug and even kiss Cooley.
Ah!
Mm-hmm. So it's like you just found this man guilty of first-degree murder, and now you feel bad for him? And it wasn't like oh, I'm crying because you were so awful. It's like, I'm crying because you're guilty, and I feel so bad that you're guilty. Yeah.
God, I fucking hate the male species.
Yeah, like even the men were like going up and hugging and kissing him, and the men were crying because there were only 2 women on the jury, but women are emotional, so. Also, after the verdict, Spade's attorney withdrew his insanity plea before proceedings could begin to determine the state of psychological health, something that needs to happen if an insanity plea is made. Okay, so I read this in a few places. At first, I only read it in one, so I was like, only one, like take it with a grain of salt, and then I read it again. And I was like, okay. So a PI was hired by Spade's own defense team. They later disclosed that Spade had given private testimony that experts analyzed. Their analysis of this testimony was that Spade himself was a closeted homosexual.
That makes sense.
Some people took this to shine light on why he hated Davenport and Jackson so much, jealous that his wife had them as lovers, jealous that they were able to accept their own sexuality so openly.
The amount of serial killers on Criminal Minds that are killing because they are gay and were abused because of it.
Right. It could also make sense as to why he rambled on about this free love sex cult he believed his wife had started with the two men.
Projecting. He's projecting this whole time.
Yep. And why he took back the insanity plea. He didn't want this psychological evaluation coming to light.
I'm sure he didn't.
Right. So sentencing took place 3 days later. The maximum penalty for a first-degree murder conviction could be death in San Quentin's gas chamber. Judge William L. Bradshaw sentenced Spade Cooley to life in prison, eligible for parole after 7 years served.
7?
I told you it doesn't get better.
7 fucking years?
And then he could be up for parole, yeah. About why...
I hope they all burn in fucking hell. All of them.
Why he gave Spade life in prison, not the death penalty, he said, quote, "We have a somewhat sketchy story of him. He has been a source of pleasure for a segment of people, so we can't say he has been antisocial. There was nothing in his life to indicate he would not be amenable to rehabilitation." He also said that he took Spade's poor health into consideration as well.
The self-induced poor health.
The heart issues, his heart attacks.
From the drugs and the alcohol he probably drank?
Probably. Yeah. So he was transferred to the state's penal processing system
someone stabs him.
in Chino, where he was examined by doctors. They determined that he was subject to extreme mood changes and periods of depression, enough that they were able to classify him as being mentally disturbed after all, making him unfit to serve time in a prison like San Quentin or Folsom. So he was instead sent to the California Medical Facility, which is a state mental hospital in Vacaville. And instead of having a cell, he had a private room. And instead of serving hard time, his treatment included him carving violins at the machine shop and teaching in the music department. He would even perform with a jailbird band. And of course, Mackenzie, he found religion, saying that if he was ever released, he'd like to become a preacher, like Billy Graham. Billy Graham is a evangelical
psycho
Christian.
Same thing.
Looked it up.
Honestly, like, I'm to the point where the amount of things that have happened with the religion of Christianity, that if someone were like, "But I found God," I'd be like, "Nope, send it back. That's not, nope."
Nope. And by 1965, he even started to show remorse for his crimes. Cue eye roll. In a prison news interview, he said, quote, "I was as wrong as any person can possibly be. There can be no excuse for beating anyone." You tortured her to death.
Right, like he's acting like, he just beat the shit out of his wife over an argument, and then she was like in the hospital or some shit.
Right.
Oy.
And this is where he remained, in this hospital, never having to see the inside of a jail cell. And because of his heart problems, he was under a strict health regimen and spared normal prison duties. So he just played music and wrote songs. One song he wrote while in prison, "Cold Gray Bars," became a hit for Ned Miller. Vacaville's chief medical officer, Dr. Eugene Prout, who looked over Spade, said that Spade couldn't bear hurting any animals, not even a mouse. He didn't eat meat at all, and he didn't have many visitors, though he had tons of friends among the other inmates. He was a very humble man.
Oh my God, the crazy people loved him. But no sane person came to visit, but he was besties with all the insane ones.
Right, besties with all the criminals.
Must speak to his character.
On August 5th, 1968, the California State Adult Authority voted unanimously to parole Spade, and that would take effect on February 22nd, 1970, at which point he would have only served 9 years of his life sentence.
I know I should never wish anyone dead, but I'm like, for all the assassinations that went on during this time, you would think that there would be one against him.
His friends in Hollywood had been lobbying Governor Ronald Reagan, who threw his support behind Spade being released on parole. It is believed that he had a big hand in pushing the parole.
Fucking, just, when you just thought trickle-down economics was bad enough, he goes and does some bullshit like this.
Uh-huh.
Fuck Reagan.
So before that release date...
Most Republican presidents, to be honest with you, because since the 80s, there has been not a time where they haven't fucked us over, at least economically. And now you're telling me that one let out a prisoner because he was like, "Oh, well, I liked him."
It seems our Republican presidents and supportees don't mind felons. Before that release date...
Be ashamed.
In November of 1969...
That's why they cover their faces. They're two little chicken shits to actually show their face when they're protesting all these things and being like, "Yeah, white power. You're a pussy. Show me your fucking face." "Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You don't, because you know it's wrong. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, you'll keep getting mad. It's fine. So before that release date in November 1969, Spade received a 72-hour furlough from the hospital in order to perform in a benefit concert for the Deputy Sheriff's Association of Alameda County at the Oakland Auditorium, now known as the Henry J. Kaiser Convention Center. On November 29th, he took the stage for the Grand Ole Opry Spectacular. It would be his first performance in 9 years. He thanked the deputies for, quote, the chance to be free for a while. Then he got to playing his fiddle for an audience of 2,800 lawmen and officials.
Because those are the only ones that fucking wanted to see him.
Well, it was the Deputy Sheriff's Association. That's who he's performing for.
Okay, got it. Never mind.
When he finished, he took bow after bow to a standing ovation. As he walked backstage, he was out of breath. He told Davis Lou Chess, an attorney, that he was having chest pain, but continued to chat with friends and sign a few autographs.
Fucking die, motherfucker. Like, oh my God. Die a painful, terrible, awful, horrible death.
While doing so, he told some of his friends who were also backstage with him that he was looking forward to returning to work, but he was concerned about whether his fans would welcome him back. Sure they will, his friends assured him. Spade smiled and said, I think it's going to work out for me. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. Those were his last words before his smile fell, his fiddle dropped, and he followed right after.
Good.
Dying right then and there of a heart attack.
Fantastic.
He was 59 and only 3 months away from true freedom.
Sucks to suck, bitch.
But what he didn't know, after the standing ovation, he was going to be called back on stage where he was going to be surprised with the news that Ronald Reagan had decided to give him a full pardon. He was 3 minutes away from being fully pardoned.
Sucks to suck even more, bitch.
Karma.
God said, I'm stopping this one.
Mm-hmm. It makes me so happy. Because you're like, I wanted to die now. I'm like, oh, he does. He is interred at Chapel of the Chime Cemetery in Hayward, Alameda County. And just 6 months after his death, the building that had once been Oregon Ballroom on the Santa Monica Pier, where Spade Cooley had gained his fame and fortune, burned to the ground and was never rebuilt.
I'm telling you, sometimes I'm like, maybe they have a point. Maybe there is a God who's like,
Yup.
Like, natural forces are at work with this one, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
God, universe, ancestral beings. Someone said this man has to be out of this earth.
Everything about him needs to be gone.
Correct.
So there you have it. The truly awful story of Spade Cooley and the tragic and horrific death of his wife, Ella May.
Damn.
And it's like, what's so sad is he was friends with so many law enforcement people that's why that one rape back however many years ago was acquitted.
Yeah.
That's why he was able to get a furlough to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was friends with cops.
Yeah.
And it just sucks that his story is what's remembered and his accomplishments and everything, but not her.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, obviously people don't talk about this side.
Right. And people don't know about this, which is the thing too. Like, I didn't know about this until our amazing listener was like, hey, Spade Cooley.
Well, hopefully more people will know. So if any, people are like, oh yeah, Spade Cooley, he's great.
Nuh-uh.
We don't talk about those people no more.
Yeah. But yeah.
God,
it was so rough because when I first read that little headline about like, oh, he killed his wife in front of his daughter, I was like, oh, I can handle this. Then as I was reading what he did to her, I was like, holy shit. Like there were audible gasps as I was reading this, like reading the many, many articles about this.
Like, ugh.
I know.
That poor girl.
I know.
That poor girl.
Oh, it's just all around so sad.
And she's so brave.
I know.
So brave. It must have been so difficult. And she doesn't have her mother.
I know.
God, I can't even imagine.
I cannot
either. That just,
I couldn't think too much into it.
No.
I just had to. No.
I can't. I can't even.
I had to just kind of think of like, okay, this is the case. I just need to write down the facts. Like, I can't actually think of being
That's the kind of thing that you have like nightmares about.
Oh, this is something that you don't recover from this.
Like, do we know? Where is she now?
No, and I honestly did not look into that because I just like couldn't.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully she's doing okay.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Like, I really hope so.
I hope her and her brother and
the other brother.
The other brother.
Technically 3.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone who's not friends with him is doing fabulous.
Yes. It just.
As long as you don't like him and don't make excuses for his behavior, you are allowed to live a pleasant life.
And as of right now, I think it seems he still has his star on the Walk of Fame.
So does Donald Trump.
What is so funny is an article I read was like, people use this argument about Spade Cooley for why Trump should also be removed from the Hall of Fame or the Walk of Fame. They're like, both of them should be removed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should not have felons on there.
Correct. Felons, for sure.
Uh-huh.
If we removed every, like, icky Hollywood man, we would have none of them left.
There would only be women left.
There would only be women left. At least from any that were like from like 2015 on.
Yeah.
But that's never going to happen.
No.
I bet Kevin Spacey still has one too.
Probably.
Bill Cosby, I bet, has one. Who are the others?
Epstein, was he ever Walk of Fame?
No. Because he was like they put out that news about like Clinton being mentioned in these documents.
Right. I thought the documents haven't been released yet.
I sent it to my friend and I was like, tell us something we don't know, since we all watched the documentary and are fully aware that Bill Clinton is 100% involved with Jeffrey Epstein.
I didn't even watch the documentary and I know.
And that the conspiracy is that Hillary had him killed because God forbid she has that shit aired out there and like ruins her legacy. Hillary is not going to tolerate that. No way. But apparently it's because it's through I think it's through a civil suit, not through.
Yes. Yep. It's through a civil suit, which part of the conditions of the civil suit said the names had to be released.
Yep. And there's like
150.
Yes.
Yep.
Name them.
Yep.
Name them.
The moment they're named, that's all you'll see in the news.
So
if it has already been released since the date of this, it is January 3rd right now.
Yes.
We have not heard anything.
We record in
advance.
In the future, but you hear it in the past.
Is that the right way?
Yeah, because we're recording for the future.
Oh, yes.
And by the time they hear it, it's happened in the past.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a clarification.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to stop. For now. People already know our views, but you know.
We've been very, very adamant about them. If you don't, then just go listen to like the Maryland episode, the last one we did. Let's see, what else pisses us off? That one really raised my blood pressure.
What, last episode?
No, the Maryland one we did about that guy who got out of 8 different convictions of beating up his girlfriend and then went crazy.
Yep.
Let's see, who else have we talked about that makes us mad?
Oh, there's a lot. If any episodes Mackenzie's like, I'm going to stand on a soapbox.
Yeah,
or get ready for your blood to boil.
If any of us start with that,
just know.
Great, well done, told story.
Thank you.
You did a very great job with that.
Thank you.
Absolutely insane.
Yep.
100% psychotic. I am shocked that there is not this kind. Like this should already be a documentary on Netflix.
So Dennis Quaid apparently made a movie, or there was gonna be a movie or something about this. His name just kept getting mentioned with Spade Cooley, like at the very end of every article. It would mention him.
Yeah.
It should have come out in like the teens. So I'll have to check and see if there is a documentary about him.
They were like, this is during the Me Too movement. We probably shouldn't fucking do that.
Early teens. Like 16.
Well, Me Too was
that 16?
16. I feel like 17 is when it really took off.
Oh.
But it had been around, I think, for a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll look into that.
At least they understood how to read the room.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoy this and our rants.
Yes. And goddamn California. That's what happens when you have apparently, side note, when I was reading my facts about California, this has nothing to do with murder or anything. This is just interesting. California is so big that they have like the 8th, if they were their own country, they'd have like the 13th or 8th or something like that largest economy. It would be equivalent to like the country of Italy.
What that means is... No, that's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
And it has a beach, a desert, mountains, and forests.
Yeah.
Because it's so fucking big.
Yes.
And it's still not even the biggest state, which is wild to me.
Alaska.
That is the biggest state out of all of them, square mileage wise, but Texas is the biggest on the continental United States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. I think it was always between Texas and California. You're like, I don't know which one.
Yeah, I always thought it was California, but it's Texas.
Wow.
I don't know by how much.
I don't know.
But
well, again, thanks for listening. If you have any scary stories, send them to us at ascarystatepodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, you guys have been really good about reaching out. If you did like a Spotify rating, those count. It doesn't have to be a rate and review. You know, and if you rate us or review us anywhere, it doesn't have to be Apple. It can be on any platform.
Google, Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
If you can't rate us or review us, that's fine if it's just a rating. Like I know Spotify, I think just does ratings.
It's just ratings.
Still
let us know.
Send us a screenshot at our email, ascarystatepodcast@gmail.com with your name and where you want us to send the stickers to.
Yeah.
So we have a few coming out this week, although that'll be next week for you. So hopefully by the time you hear this, those of you that are getting a sticker will have gotten yours.
We can only hope.
We can only hope.
So stay scary.
And please stay safe.